Okay, good morning. Let me introduce Jorge Penadés, product designer. He's been the guest invited in this project in the first design degree. If there are any architectural students, the lecture is going to be in English, and just be yourself.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah. So, in order to give a little bit of an idea of what I thought about the lecture, so because normally lectures are just about the work of, the professional, and I feel it's a little bit boring. So I just wanted to introduce you a little bit of an idea that I guess is interesting. That's why the lecture is called High Performance Design Center. Why? Because at High Performance Center, as an athlete, normally it's like, well, this is Rafael Nadal Academy in Mallorca. He has a high performance center, which basically young people go there and kind of train and get knowledge about tennis. But it's not just about that. It's always, it's also about like having the perfect circumstances in order to kind of perform or get the best out of what they are gonna have, no? So they have a really nice installations. So they have a lot of like tennis courts, of course. Then they also have like personal trainers. They also have a pool to enjoy. They also eat very well. They also sleep very well and get, information or knowledge from the best professionals in the world, no? And if you kind of do this twist and apply this sort of thinking to designers, because we tend to think that at the end, design is just a creative person or an artist or an architect. It's just a creative person that just, sit in a chair one morning and then have a genius idea. And through this idea, they make a lot of money, right? That's not true. You have to keep certain things in mind in order to kind of perform with your brain, So what if we apply this idea of high performance center to designers? This is what you have, no? You have your school with a lot of nice teachers, with a lot of nice, like workshops, a lot of, students that you can share information with. But then there is another part that you have to do it yourself, which is because again, we think that, we take creativity for granted, or we think we are creatives and therefore we're gonna have like genius ideas, every day. It is not true, If you go to the club every night and then you get drunk and then you get to the school with hangover, probably your brain is not going to work the same way it would work without these circumstances, no? So I kind of suggest, if you really want to become professionals, because it's not an easy task, that you also train yourself, sleep, eat well, kind of. It sounds like a stupid thing, no, with your age right now, but I think it's very important in the future. Make sure to also train your creativity. For instance, I do stupid examples, but try to, not follow the same path to come to the university every day. Try to kind of, your brain is something that once learn something, it doesn't think anymore because it's a kind of automatic thing. But if you kind of hack your brain, you will increase the amount of creativity and the amount of the flow of ideas, right? And also a good thing that you have here is that it's a campus. And creativity is also about overlapping ideas that apparently doesn't necessarily need to be, or doesn't necessarily need to go well with each other, right? Or to me at least, creativity is connecting two worlds that apparently doesn't have nothing to do with each other, but you make it, work somehow. So just a little seed that I want to give you guys. Then this is, I normally like to start this or lectures with this image. This is the cabinet making company from my great-grandfather. Then it was inherited my grandfather. And this is a nice picture because they were, my family's father's side come from Valencia. And many years ago, they emigrated to Morocco because Morocco was under French territory. And at that time, Morocco was way more developed than Spain. So he started selling horses to the French army. And then once he did these things many times, he kind of have a nice amount of money and he decided to make or to kind of found his own passion, which was cabinet making, and therefore he kind of founded a cabinet making company, right? After Morocco got the independence, the Europeans got kicked out or invited to leave, if you want to put it in a polite way. And then that's why I'm from Malaga. I was born in Malaga in the south of Spain, because it was this, the closest place in front of Morocco, right? Then the second image is my wife, Brenda, and my two kids, Alejo and Oliver. And I think it's important to kind of show, because normally designers and architects, we just get during the talks, like all the good things, the good clients, the good publications, the good awards. But then we are surrounded by persons, especially the family, that allow us to kind of be or have the profession that we have. Without my wife taking care of the kids, I wouldn't be able to be here, right? So I think it's worth mentioning that they also deserve some sort of recognition, right? So this is a picture where I grew up. It was a small fisherman village called Los Boliches in the very south of Spain, in Malaga. And this is an environment I grew up. It's like very nice weather, a lot of tourists, very cheap alcohol. So yeah, for many years, what I'm trying to say with this picture is, like, in this type of context, we were not stimulated enough in order to kind of pursue those type of creative careers, right? So, I have a really nice childhood, but then the result was this. This is, well, also I must mention that I don't have this very academic profile, right? I quit, I dropped out the school when I was 17. It took me 3 years to come back. So I was for 3 years working in random jobs, selling clothes in Zara, blah, 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 blah. And then when I did the selectividad, so this is my selectividad test with 21 years old, and this is the result, 2.9, right? So what I wanted to, I always like to put this picture because I want to demonstrate that although at the beginning of your career, the results or your results, they are not great, if you work hard enough, you're able to achieve whatever you want, okay? Because, who will think that a stupid guy with 2.9 in selectividad will be able to lecture in a, university, right? A lot of hours and a lot of sweats and a lot of bloods, So we skip the personal part and now we go to the work. This is a project, this is a new material that I developed during my thesis, the master's degree in Madrid. And it's a new material, it's called structural skin, and it's basically a new material made out of leather leftovers, okay? So what I do, the idea is very simple. That's another thing that we might consider is like, we not always need to, invent the wheel. We sometimes can adjust different things that you think they are not working and then come up with a solution for that. So the idea of trying to find a way of recycling leather, I found out, I thought, okay, how is wood recycled, no? So you have MDF, which basically is crushing the wood, into a powder, mix it with a resin, and then making sheets, which are the boards. The other one is OSB, the other one is plywood. There's many ways of recycling wood, right? So I decided, okay, why if we apply these recycling methods, but instead of wood, I use leather, right? So basically what I do is like, I take all these leather leftovers, I shred them. I bought this paper shredder machine, typical from the offices, right? And I shred them. And here is the key element of the material, which is the glue. Because at that time when I did this was 2014, and it was a bubble of new material. Everyone was basically throwing stuff into resin and calling it a new material. And in my opinion, you don't need to be a designer in order to throw something into resin and call it new material. My father with 75 years old can throw little piece of stone into resin and, so I think the key aspect of this project was to find out the right glue. This is bone glue. Before the white glue came to the cabinet making, this was the regular glue used in cabinet making. Basically, those, and again, it's also a bioproduct from the meat industry. So we tend to think that we kill animals in order to get the leather. This is not right. We kill the animals because we eat meat, and therefore they have a lot of leftovers, which are the bones and the skins. With the skins, we do leather, and with the bones, there are many bioproducts, but one of them is this bone glue. So at the end, I use those two bioproducts from the meat industry and make it this new material, right? Basically, when I get the leather shred into little straps and I heat the glue up, I throw the leather inside the glue, and then I just designed some. I'm sorry, but I didn't want to show the clamps, I mean the molds, because it's kind of the formula, no? You don't want to give away the formula of the Coca-Cola, although it's not a Coca-Cola, of course. But so I designed a kind of metal molds when I throw this mixture inside, and then I just clamp it by hand. And the result, as you can see on the first image, is a kind of a wooden stick, but instead made out of wood, it's made out of leather, right? And with this, I make furniture, okay? So after many years, 5 years, because the problem with recycling elements and materials is like it has this like not that nice. It's not very appealing, you know. So I started working making furniture for different clients and then galleries and then blah blah until I got the opportunity or the commission from Berluti, which is a luxury brand, shoemaking brand from the LVMH group, probably the best or the biggest luxury group in the world. And they commissioned me to do a limited collection of furniture. So here, I mean, and it was presented in September in Milan during the Milan Design Festival at their flagship store in Via Monte Napoleone, which is all this, you know, very fancy store. Anyway, so this is, I did 3 pieces, 3 furniture pieces. One is a coat rack. You will see it later. Then I did a little lamp. Of course, mixed with that, because then again, like the recycling part, aluminum, which is kind of recyclable. So, you know, there is a whole story there. And also silk, which is also a natural material for the lamp. And then I did a huge, well, huge no, but big table slash desk. Then here you can see the coat rack. And then here you can see the little lamp. Meaning that, you know, finally a luxury brand kind of trust this stupid guy that you have in front of you in order for them, I mean, in order for them to communicate that they were using recycled material and launch it together with their, you know, kind of high-end audience, right? We also did some kind of accessory for the brand. So there's these keychains that you can see on the leather bags. They were done also with this material, and we did some necklaces, but at the end it didn't work out, so I didn't produce them. Anyway. Also, I mean, this presentation is structured in the sense of like giving you a glance of what I do in my studio. So we do new materials, we do products, we do interiors, and now we're also trying, or not trying, but doing like kind of temporary architecture, right? So this is the second example, the second project that I wanted to show. It's a project that we did for a client, which is called BD Barcelona. It's a brand. It's one of the classics from Spain. It was founded in the 70s, and they have all these, you probably know this vase from Ettore Sottsa's, the pink penis made out of ceramic. I don't know if you saw it. Well, classic stuff. And then they had a really nice idea, which is, because normally when a company produces something, because, I mean, although they launch it and they promote it and then whatever, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to sell it. What happened? That in a couple of years, 3 years, some or most of the projects and products that they have launched, they get out of the catalog. So they get discarded because they're not selling. What is the consequences? That they have huge warehouses full of products and components, okay? That cost, you know, the rent of the warehouse plus the investment that you've done for these components every month. So they came up with a really nice and a smart initiative, which is called Remix. And then what they do is like they ask designers to go to this warehouse, pick up some leftover or those components that are not anymore, you know, in production, and then do something with those, right? So I got, when I went there, I picked up some other components, but they told me, okay, Jorge, we're really interested into those metal profiles. Before they were lamps, and they were sold as this system on, that they were meant to be on top of the shelves. And then they were 6 meters long, and they have different like shapes, right? So they told me, okay, Jorge, would you like to do something with that? And then at that time it was very like trendy to kind of burn stuff. They kind of suggested me how, if I would destroy them in order to make something very like sculptured. I said, wait a moment. So what I proposed them is like, what if instead of cutting it longitudinally, we cut it, in sections. So we kind of decompose this profile in different shapes, because the shapes of the profile are really beautiful. But then I decided to kind of propose a way of rearranging and then create a collection of vases, right? So this is part of the production process. As you can see here, all the sections, and we propose them I propose them how to kind of rearrange it together. And then this is kind of the top view, or the picture. Then here you can see the raw vase that afterwards is being glued together with a very, I'm not gonna go into technical stuff, but yeah, anyway. And then this is the pictures that we've done together with a very good photographer. That's why always on the jury, I really insist you to take care of the communication of your projects. And if you can, in the future, work with professional photographers that can document your work, because they're gonna, highlight your work, right? So this is one example of the vase. This is another example. We're just here, again, like we're not showing this is another interesting thing, like we're not showing the whole vase. We're just suggesting what the vase would be, because I think it's more interesting to kind of set, it's like, I'm sorry, I don't know if I can give you this example. It's erotic and porn is completely two different things, right? One thing is like you kind of suggest the possibility of something, and the other one is very literal. It's like very, So here we have examples of like what would be, the section of this vase, and then, not putting the flower in, but kind of arranging in a very beautiful way. Of course, it was not my thing, it was a photographer one. But here you can see how you can communicate a project, not being literal, and I think, in my opinion, in a very seductive way, right? Second project, now I also do in the studio one-off is called, unique pieces, what is called now collectible design, especially working with galleries, right? So I got commissioned by a New York gallery, it's called The Future Perfect, and they did a show about chairs, and they asked me to make a chair for them. And then this chair is based basically on this very random principle, because normally the glass is glued with a UV glue. So basically you apply a thin layer of this glue, and then with UV light you cannot make the whole thing very tight together, right? So this has no glue. It's just like a leather strap. So the leather strap is like basically holes, and then these metal components, which is very basic from, when you get a car and you want to put something on top and you want to clamp them. So this is the metal component that you use. And then, so basically the strap of leather goes inside, go outside again, and then you kind of make sure that the whole thing is tied together. So yeah, this is the result. Of course, this is not like highly functional, meaning that of course you can sit on it, but it's not the most, it's not a chair that you're gonna, carry on in your house, right? But again, it's bringing something, or this context of galleries, it allows us to kind of bring something new to the table, which is with two random things, which is a ready-made, which is this metal buckle, and then a leather strap. You kind of design a whole connection system to join in glass panels. So this is another kind of clients that we have in the studio. Then another type of job that we do is like interior design, they call now retail design. So basically it's designing for brands that sell clothing or shoes or whatever. So, and this is another project that is, we had a lot of fun because Camper like back on the 90s, now it's very common, right? But back on the 90s, they were like very bold, and they decided, okay, if you go a Zara shop or whatever other shop, it's the same Zara in every part of the world, right? All the Zaras are the same. So what they do is like they started in the 90s asking if they're gonna open a shop in Tokyo, they will ask a Japanese architect to design the shop for them. And it will be completely different from the one in South Africa and in Moscow. So at the end, Camper, what they started to do that now is becoming mainstream, is linking their image as a shoe brand together with the image of a specific architect, designer, or artist in this context, right? So they commissioned me, they asked me, because I normally use with existing, I'm not that comfortable with the word recycling because I think it's very narrow. I like to say or to think that I'm using existing things to create new things, right? So they have this amazing warehouse they have the headquarters in Inca, and this is in Alaró, and Village-Alem, between two villages. And basically they asked me, okay, Jorge, we have a huge warehouse with a lot of furniture, because Camper work with very top designers, right? Like the Burulek brothers, Jaime Ayllón, Konstantin Giricic, so the best of the world. I don't know why they're asking me to do a shop for them, but anyway. So, and all the shops that got refurbished or they got closed because they are not selling anymore, they take all the furniture and they bring it back to Mallorca, right? So they told me, Jorge, what if you come to our warehouse? We wanna open a shop in Mallorca, and you kind of take elements from this warehouse and you put them together and you create a shop. And then when they brought me there and I saw this amazing, this amazing warehouse, I kept on thinking, I'm not sure if I will feel comfortable by doing like a kind of, Frankenstein. So putting a lot of things together and then there we go. I wanted to find my own, way of doing things. The same thing I did with the vases. So during the visit, I was having the visit with the CEO of the company and the head of the architectural department. And I completely, because normally how those projects works is like you design, like architects, you design the project, on the computer, you hand the project to a builder, and then this builder, this construction company, make sure that they follow your rules or your project, right? And then once it's constructed, then all the departments from any brand, they go there and they complain. This width of the, the pasillo of the thing, we cannot walk comfortably, or this shelf is very high. So a lot of people start complaining. So what I thought is like, okay, what if instead of me designing the shop in Madrid and then giving you the project and you finding someone else to fabricate it, what if I bring my whole studio to your warehouse and I fabricated the shop myself? Then you can come and complain. We fix it for you. And then we set up the shop whenever everything is solved, so you cannot complain anymore. And then, this really weird situation where you are working with a CEO of a company, and then you have this idea on your brain. It's like, should I say it or not? Because you can't really screw the client. If you say something to them and they don't like it, basically it's ciao ciao, and we get a new one, right? And at some point I say, okay, I really need to get this idea out. So I explain them the idea, what if, and then they the CEO look at the head of the architectural department. It's like, it's not bad. Anyway, I was kind of a little bit more, not that stressed. And then we walk out, we went to the car, and the head of the architectural department is like, went inside the car and said, Jorge, you got the price. Like, yes. So thinking about what should I do, because at the end, this is a specific context, right? Like a warehouse normally have shelves, So I started to do a study of which elements have this kind of atmosphere, right? So basically all this shelving system that to me, they're very interesting. Those are structural elements that no one's know the name who designed them. Do you know them? Because I don't know. But at the end, they have been working or performing their functionality, a lot of, it's proved that it's working, right? So trying to think about all these elements, like how can I do? So, okay, what I propose there is like, again, I move my studio to your warehouse, and I convert your warehouse into a temporary factory. So I brought my team there, and we decided to work with these shelving profiles that you can see in Bricomart, Bauhaus, whatever, the €3 each, the 2 meters, no? And we decided to do the entire shop with those metal profiles. Why? Because we just need metal profiles, bolts, nuts, and those triangles that make the structure holes weight, right? So we went there. We spent 2 weeks in July 2019 prototyping every single type of furniture that the shop needed. Then all the teams, visual department, the retail department, the architectural department, all the people came, they complained, and then we fixed it for them. And then we came 2 weeks in September, and we manufactured, fabricated the entire shop ourselves. And because it's symmetrical, as you can see in the first picture, we just fabricated half of it. And one day approved it, then we fabricated the other half. It was, taken down, sent to painting, and then it was installed, right? And we did everything with those 3 elements. So for instance, the logo of company was done with this, metal profile that would just do a lot of cuts. So it allowed us to kind of bend it. Then here we have to invent a way of, because then we have to prove that the lighting, they were working at a certain height. So we set up this, I don't know how to say in English, but the scaffolding, no? In order to hang the lamp. The lamp you cannot see, but it's there. In order for when the CEO and all departments were coming, to kind of demonstrate that we kind of know what we were doing, although we were not. And this is a really nice detail, no? At the end, also with these triangular elements, metal elements, we find out a way of creating a typography in order to help, because the shop was set up in the way that all the walls have the number of the shoe size. So we have to design some numbers. And then here you have the shop. As you can see, it's completely symmetrical. Then this is the counter that you see previously, no? With those metal profiles, also all the lighting. Then we also designed it. It was a nightmare, but they kind of imposed that the tables should have a space inside in order to have, shoe boxes. So we have to design with the same elements. We designed it like a hinge. So you can make doors, open them, and then close them. So there is a whole bunch of little details that we solved just with those 3 elements, which it was not easy. Here you can see all the numbers on the walls. And also because of, these metal profiles, we have seen them so much. And it's like not very appealing, no? So we decided to kind of paint it with very like bright colors, but also we had this like purpurina, I don't know, like metal flakes. So whenever, here you cannot see in the picture, but whenever you walk through, it shines, all the furniture, no? So in order to kind of get, from our collective imaginary, this very like low level image that we have from the metal profiles, which is gray, boring, dumb, We also managed to design a stool for people to sit and test the shoes, because we have to remember that it's a shoe company that sells shoes. And I always like to have this image. This is kind of sums up a little bit the whole concept of the shop and how could we design an entire retail space. I always like to say also that, this is my first, industrial product. Also, it's not a product, it's a space. But then the amount of people, I'm not sure if I will be able to design a piece of furniture that is sold with the numbers that the people that go to this shop every day, because a shop is used by, 2,000, 3,000 people every day. If you do the numbers at the end of the year, your shop is being used by millions of people, right? So I'm not sure if in my entire life I will design an object that will be bought by a million people, right? Meaning that the usability and all these constraints that an industrial space, that a retail space has, you also have to deliver. It's not just an artistic, you also need to work and it also need to last. And that's it. half an hour.
Any question? Any comment?
I can keep on showing stuff, but I didn't feel like overwhelming you with more information. Like, for instance, another thing that we do, or I do in the studio, and sorry to interrupt you, but for instance, now, if you ever go to Madrid, I also curate exhibitions. So I founded in 2019 something called Extraperlo, which is basically a curatorial platform. And if you want to have one of the examples is at the Museo Nacional de las Artes Decorativas in Madrid. So we have a show from February until April, mid-April. I don't know what to tell you about that, but basically it's like, because I think it's interesting to kind of take a little bit of money from our client work and putting and wasting, spending this money in something that has a cultural value, right? I mean, I think we designers and artists and architects and all the creative people have a responsibility of, or with the context that we are in. And for instance, in 2019, they decided to found this Madrid Design Festival, which now is kind of a bit well known. And I was not very happy with the content that they were kind of giving, because it's always a collaboration with the brand. Basically, it's like a design, what is called now design washing. And I felt like, the people that were living there, we have to create content, for young people, younger generation, that they can have access to projects that they wouldn't if those type of independent initiatives were, right? So, for instance, I've been privileged enough in order to be able to know people outside of Spain. So I have a lot of friends that have studied in different schools and they live in different countries. So I wanted to bring this work that I think is interesting from a lot of countries to Madrid, for the people in Madrid, for the students, especially in Madrid, to have access to this content, right? So the main characteristics of Extraperlo is like, whenever, I ask friends and friends of friends to send me something in a shoebox. So the piece that is going to be shown on the museum has to fit a shoebox. Why? Because, for instance, the first year I invited one friend from South Korea, Hwan Hu Lee, which is a very well-known designer. If I ask Hwan Hu Lee to send me a lamp or a sofa or a chair, he will have asked me, okay, Jorge, I need 3,000 euros for the shipping. Then it's insurance. And then of course it wouldn't happen because I don't have the money to fund this thing. But I can fund, 50 euros shipping from a shoebox from anywhere in the world. So at the end, it became this sort of like very authentic property of the show. So every participant has to send me something within a shoebox. And at the beginning, of course, I was doing this in my studio. So the studio was the exhibition space. And then this year, we finally found the support of an institution, which is the Museo Nacional de las Artes Decorativas. And then we're having the show there. And it's co-curated with, I don't know if you know it, but Tomás Alonso is a Spanish designer based in London. Well, you must look it up because it's a very interesting designer. So yeah, what I want to say with this is like, we have more work. I do more things, but I didn't feel like, overwhelming you with a lot of, information. So now please ask doubts, concern, critics. Critics, please.
No, I have a question. So there are generally like two, I don't want to
try to get a little bit close to the mic.
Is there any mic? No.
Sorry.
No problem. I'm sorry for you.
I'm in third year. I'm actually not first.
I remember you from the first year.
Yeah, I remember. I have a question. It's more, I don't want to generalize, but there's this school of thought in design that we follow very strict methods. So double diamond or whatever it could be. And then you have this school of design, which is experimentation. I guess you're acquainted with. And so, as a student from a product, also with product design, like looking at your work, you kind of put the two together. Like you have a very clear method, but you also don't discount that. Like you don't go away with your experimentation. But for like young designers like us, we either stick to one or we go to the other, and it's really difficult to make that balance of how do I apply my method while at the same time being very experimental and like putting a good balance between the two. So I just wanted to ask like how.
Yeah, I think this is a very personal. I mean, what I think is interesting is like you must develop your own language, right? You are a unique person because we tend to follow, you know, the big names, no? It's Jaime Ayón doing these little drawings. Then there is the Borulek brothers that does this. Then there is Patricio Urquiola who has another, you know. And of course, at the beginning, you start like not copying, but like being inspired by them. But then at some point, you kind of find out that it's wait. Like for instance, I'm gonna give you a personal example. When I was a student, when I was your position or at your stage, I was completely obsessed with the Scandinavians, right? Like really nice wood, very clean, you know, white background, a little bit of a plant there, you know, being very polite. I found myself like wearing coats, like white shirt and like, you know, trying to be polite. And at the end, it's like, I mean, I'm from Malaga. I swear a lot, you know, I'm the opposite of a polite and subtle and how you say, sophisticated person. So why the hell am I going to, you know, am I trying to do the same type of work that the Scandinavians do, you know? I need to find my own voice. So that's why I use color. I use like very sharp, you know, like expressive thing, because at the end, I'm sorry, I'm from the south of Spain, I'm Mediterranean, you know what I mean? So what I'm trying to say is like, each one of us has his own personal background, meaning you have been born in a specific place, in a specific family, within a specific context, with a lot of references, and no one else in the world is going to have it. So you have a lot of information there that you can take and apply to your work. And at the end, where people or companies are looking for is authenticity. We don't want to see more Buruleks. We don't want to see more Jaime Jones. We want to see something different, especially nowadays with girls, with, you know, like we need to, a sentence that I like always to kind of say as a, you know, we cannot keep on doing the same things we have been doing, you know, in the past, because we know what is the result, you know. We need to find alternative ways of doing things, because otherwise we're going to end up, you know, destroying our, you know? So, and yes, coming back to your question, it's like, it's very hard to put together those two worlds, which, because at the end also, I don't know if it's a school of thought, but yeah, I clearly see what you mean, which is there is designers that they're very practical. It's like function for companies. And the other one, which is more like art. So the function is not priority number one. No, it's not even there. You know, it's like, you know, an artistic exercise. How you put together the both is the most complicated ones, because you want to be creative enough in order to come up with alternative solutions or like proposals, but then you also need to fit a certain criteria that a client is asking you, otherwise it will not pay for that. And this is very hard. How I did it, I don't know. But I'm sure you will be able to do it. If a stupid guy with a 2.9 in selectividad, you know, managed to do it, I think you are way more able to do it than me. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Okay, first of all, thank you so much, because it has been a beautiful presentation. I was saying thank you because it has been beautiful. And I think one of the most intriguing things for me has been your way of working with the existing, as you have been saying, but not that much with the material. I was very intrigued with the way you were working with the existing structures in Camper. Mm-hmm. So how you were dealing with to see the client also as one more, not material, but something to work with. So I was wondering if you can tell us even more about how you work and receive the feedback and try to find new ways of approaching the client.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Again, like, that's why I always like to kind of give a little bit of a personal context. No, a little bit of context. Why, I mean, what was the brief and how I approached it? Because, you know, at least me in 2019, that my studio was just like 3 years old, and a company with 400 stores in the world come to you and then ask you to make a shop, and then you see the list of because this place is called Camper Together, right? So they do collaboration with artists and designers, and you do the list and you see all your heroes on the list. It's like, you got terrified. I mean, what the hell am I going to do that, that they so then I will suggest to not be, that's why I said before on the class, on the jury, on the thing, that you don't always need to follow the brief. Or my attitude sometimes is I go against the brief. So you ask me to do something, I'm going to find a way and will justify this way of doing what you didn't ask me to do. How you can do that? I normally do this thing. It's like, again, you always have to overwork. You can never work less than what you have been asked for, no? So I normally do is like one proposal, that is what the client wants. One proposal, which is in between what I would love to do and what the client wants. And the third proposal, which is a completely crazy idea that I'm sure the client doesn't want, but maybe you find the right client that Camper is, that kind of trust you and spend their money into your crazy idea, no? For them, they were looking for a really cheap shop to be made in Mallorca, because this was meant to be Mallorca. Now, at the end, they decided to be in Malaga, right? But that's why they suggested me to go and find some existing pieces, put them together, paint the walls and the floors, and that's it. That's the new shop. So I find a way of, okay, I can do that. I can do something in between, which is I propose them to kind of break all the pieces from these masters and then rearrange them and then create a new shop. And then the third one was like, wait, this warehouse is a huge space. Because I don't know if you have seen or not, but I don't know how to open a computer. I don't know how to draw. I don't know how, the only thing I know is working with my hands. So it's like, what if I know how to cut metal? I know how to kind of work with metal. Why if I go to your warehouse, you buy me the metal, you buy me the machine, and I fabricate it? It's like, what? You're gonna fabricate an entire shop? I didn't want to, again, like overwhelm with information, but for instance, we bought like 2.5 kilometers of metal things. We used 12,000 bolts and nuts and 4,000 metal, triangles. In order to give you, I don't know if we spend like 20,000 euros just on the metal. But at the end, it was a very efficient way of building the thing. Why? Because they didn't need to pay a third construction company, which at the end is the most expensive one, the one who fabricated in architecture. The architect is not the expensive one. The expensive part is the building site, right? So it's the same thing. I got rid of this third middleman and I did everything myself. So at the end, you find a way of kind of fitting within the brief, or at least the requirements or the limitation or the constraints that they have, but in a very kind of sideways. So sorry, I speak too much, but normally what I would suggest is that you do what the client wants, you do one in the middle, and then you go with a crazy one that is really inside you. And hopefully, 1 out of 5, you will find the right client that trusts you, say, we're going to fund your idea. I don't know if I answer your question.
I think, and yes, you did, for sure. But to a certain degree, it follows the logic that the artist or the architect knows more. And in your proposal, you even take it further, which is like, let's see how you sneak in. For me, it was more interesting, the act of being with a client, sort of listening to him, convincing them, trying to find new ways. That I'm sure that there was a lot probably in the process. Even the fact of that you were prototyping the thing in their place, for me, it's already a very good, I don't know, it's more on that part, like how you prototype the thing and you receive the feedback from them and how you integrate it in the new.
Yeah, I think with this kind of approach to the brief, I think not just me, but me with the team, because I always like to say that, the studio is not just me. I have a lot of not a lot, but few people, they are way more intelligent than me. I always, for instance, I have Javi, which is an architect, and from like he's my right hand, or he has been, now I have another right hand, but anyway, I always introduce himself as the smart part of the studio. I'm the one who create the problems and he's one who solve it, you know? Like, Javi, why we go to Mallorca, living there for a month, and then we fabricate it? It's like, okay, I'll make it happen, you know? I come up with a crazy idea, but then you need someone who is the technical mindset behind you. It's like, no, Jorge, this structure is gonna fall down here, or it's gonna be broken here, or the tension, you know? I'm not able to kind of think about all these details. So you need, so coming back to your question, I think the interesting part is kind of, because again, like this idea of like this genius that come up with a really genius idea, to me is obsolete, you know? Now we know that we have to work in teams, and the better and the more diverse the team is, the more interesting the proposal. So yeah, coming back to the question, is a matter of like finding the right team to work with, but also finding the right client. And especially that's why, you know, I also put a lot of recognition into the client, because it's an essential part of the project. It wouldn't happen with Zara. It wouldn't happen with 95% of the companies. What happened? Happened that Camper has been, so the creativity is on their DNA since minute one. And they kind of risk a lot of money because some of the projects, you know, succeed, but some of the projects fail. But again, like, it's very important to find the right partners. So I always kind of say the same thing, which is I prefer to do less, but surrounded by better people that trying to do, because I don't feel that I'm a very prolific designer. I do few projects each year, but I try to select very well who I'm working with, because again, it kind of, it will influence your output in the future.
That's very good. No, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Critiques, not question, critiques.
And comments.
All right, there we go. I just had a question. You kind of were talking about this a little bit earlier. If you have an idea that you really trust and believe in and you receive some kickback, is it worth pursuing the idea and trying to find a new client that will hold on to it? Or is it something that you should throw away if it kind of isn't working based off the client's point of view?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. I have, I don't know, maybe 50 ideas on the hard drive that I would like to, you know, propose back, because they have been proposed and discarded by the client. But then at the end, I understood that there is a specific moment and time and context where one idea can work and another doesn't. I'm going to put you an example. When you flirt, you maybe like one person, but this person has a partner. So maybe it's not the right time to go and, you know, try to flirt with them. But and it's not because it doesn't like you. It's because the circumstances are not the best. So I will suggest to kind of, you know, review some of the ideas. If you really trust them and want to further develop them or want to take them to the next stage, I will highly recommend to kind of not maybe, you know, refine the idea, but also, you know, try to find the right circumstances on the right, again, client to kind of offer. Because some of the projects that you've seen here, so for instance, the camper shop, I proposed this idea because, like, this was done in 2019, and 2016, I got invited to an exhibition and I did a chair and a desk made out of those exactly same profile, metal profiles. So I knew how to, you know, so I got this previous idea that it was just like a little thing that I've done with for an exhibition, and then I took it to a completely different, you know, same thing with the glass, with the metal buckle and the leather strap. So this comes from another exhibition that I got invited in Prague, and then basically we were asked a few different international designers to look into the Czech Republic context. And then basically the starting point of this idea was in the Czech Republic, they are very famous, or they have a deep knowledge into glass making, with all this very baroque way of decorating glass, you know, mouth blown, but also like different techniques. So because I have a particular interest into the technical or mechanical properties of the materials, I decided to take glass, not in a decorative way, but in a very technical way. So how can I apply my approach, which is the technical part, to the glass that normally has been, because you're not supposed to sit on a glass chair. You're supposed to take a glass and drink water, or, you know, have a vase with flowers. So how can we take this very subtle and beautiful material and take it to a completely different context? So, and I'm going far away from your question, but, you know, sometimes it's really interesting to kind of decontextualize different things in order to find alternative ways of doing things. But yeah, I would highly recommend, if you really trust an idea, to kind of find the right moment, time, and context for this idea, because I'm sure the idea will be interesting. The problem is like, who will make it happen, right?
All right, great. Thank you very much.
Just yell at me. I mean, okay.
Does it work? Oh, sorry. So as a designer with any creative like work, I would assume it's very common to have like a creative block or like running out of ideas. And sometimes you feel like, how do I get out of it? I know it's different for many people, but personally, how do you like get out of it, or how do you deal with it when you get one?
Yeah, I have completely the opposite problem. So my problem is like my brain works. Yeah, I'm a very hectic person, right? So I don't have time to develop all the ideas that I have. But coming back to your question, my problem normally is how to distill these ideas, no? How to kind of select the ones which are the interesting ones. Because another kind of myth that we have is like, you know, we creative have genius ideas, but most of them are shit. I mean, most of them, you know what I mean? That's why, for instance, I have something that that's why the exercise that I ask the students is to, the first one is like doing 25 exercises, because I got this exercise from when I was studying. I'm not going to tell you the whole story. So fast forward, basically, if you make 100 options from a single idea, brief, whatever, from those 100 possibilities, you will find maybe 25 that are okay. Then you will find 10 which are good. You will find from those 10, you will find 5 which are very good. And the extremely exquisite one will be just one. What 100 possibilities, eh? What if your body of work is like 10 possibilities? You will find 2 that are okay and 1 that is good. But you will find not the very good and the extremely good. You know what I mean? So again, that's why also I was very interested to kind of give you the seed of the high performance center, because we are high performance, you know, design generators. No, I mean, sorry, we are people that we have to consider, because at the end, creativity is kind of something that you need to train and you need to take care of. You know, I'm sure that Rafa Nadal is not like eating whatever McDonald's thing and then having a nap whenever he has to train and then going out with, you know, it's something that is, you know, you have to be a professional. And by being a professional, meaning that you really need to take care of all the circumstances that you have surrounding your profession, right? So again, I put a lot of effort and energy in training my creativity. So therefore, I don't have this, sorry, creativity block, because again, my problem is the other one, like how to, in filmmaking, it's called editing, right? Because at the end, that's another interesting thing. Like whenever a filmmaker make a film, he has like 17 hours of documents, and we have to make a film of 2 hours. How we can take away 15 hours of filming, right? So then it's a person that comes, an external person that comes and say, hey, man, or girl, you have explained the same thing 15 times. We don't need to explain something 15. With one, it's already enough, right? But because we are the creative ones, because we take it, usually we take it personally, it's like you want them all. No. Maybe from your 10 ideas, just one which is worth it, And we have to learn how to get rid of those 9 other ideas. Again, it's not personal. It's not that you are not creative enough. It's just that we have to make sure, we have to assume that the 100% of our ideas, they are not valid. Or they are not valid for this context and for this reason, for this brief or for this whatever, So how can you get, there's many ways you can get rid of this mental block, but it really depends on the context. For instance, one little example that I gave on the jury thing, it was like all the students were like very good students. So always they were following what we have asked them to do. But I normally approach the things from the other perspective. It's like, I want to destroy your brief. I want to make sure that whatever you're asking me to do, I'm gonna finishing doing what you asked me to do, but a completely different, And by positioning yourself in another position, then you might find some alternative ways of doing what they're asking you to do. But this is always happen when you overwork. Again, you have to demonstrate the people that is asking you to do something that you're able to do it. Plus, I'm going to offer you 3 or 4 or 5 different other possibilities. And then it's like, wow, because if you just offer one, maybe it's not the right one. Maybe it's not the right time for this one. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, probably I haven't asked you your question. Sorry.
Okay, so sometimes when we have an idea, like we visualize the idea and we like kind of fall in love with it. Like we see like the final product, it's everything in our minds. Yeah, an idea, for example. And we visualize like I have a lot of ideas. Well, concepts. Yes, concepts. And well, so sometimes when then we communicate them to our group, like when we are working, or even the teachers, they don't see what we are seeing. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they say like, no, it's not going to work. And sometimes I don't know, like I feel frustrated, like you don't see what I'm seeing, like you haven't visualized it like I have. So how can we communicate ideas and like the enthusiasm we have for ideas, for our concepts, without, having produced them and like.
Again, I think I always insist, but you have to overwork. So if you have been told that you have to deliver 3 drawings, 2 sections, and 1 render, I'm not gonna do just that, but I'm gonna do a prototype. And then you're gonna see this prototype functioning. And then I'm gonna do this really nice photography of this prototype. And then I'm gonna deliver you a book, or I'm gonna deliver you a video. So I wanna make sure that you cannot, undervalue my idea. You know what I mean? I'm gonna put you an example. I graduated from my bachelor degree in interior design in Barcelona, in the shittiest school ever, right? All the teachers, you handle the project, and they were going directly to the back side of the project, of the paper, because when I was studying, it was like printed, right? Because at the back side, it was the renders. On the last pages, there were the renders. So they evaluate the renders. They didn't even look at the concept, at the layout, anything, just went to the renders, because at that time, it was 2012, the teachers that I have, they told us that if we don't know how to make renders, we wouldn't be able to find a job, right? So they were basically very, you know. What I did, I graduated in interior design with a chair. Why? Because of course, I handled them the project that they wanted to see, but because I designed a construction system instead of an interior, because all my classmates, they were designing a really nice bar, a really nice shoe shop, a really nice restaurant, a really nice, it's like, I have a real interest into a space that were that you can assemble or disassemble. I cannot find the right way in English, but you know that you can construct and deconstruct and then pack it away and then ship it somewhere else, okay? But because in an interior, it was so hard to kind of demonstrate that my connection system or my joint was working, I decided to make a prototype. And this prototype, I put it on top of the table in the jury. And then I brought a chair that it was flat packed in a bag. And I entered to the jury, to the class with my backpack. I assembled my chair and I sit on it and I presented my project on my chair, demonstrating that this joint, it was working. They could sit on the, you know what I mean? So there is no way that they can say your idea is not work. I mean, your idea, it doesn't work because I was already demonstrating it. So it's like, have you seen the Eminem film? You know, when the last thing, he kind of destroyed himself by saying all the bad things that, you know, about him. So the other rapper cannot, you know what I mean? So it's finding a way of making sure that the professors or the client or whatever cannot tell you this idea doesn't work. How? Overworking, doing much more work than what you have been asked to do. To me, this is the only way. Probably there is way more options, but at least this is my way of approaching this thing. I don't know if it makes sense. Christina wants to eat. Christina hungry.
Time for the question this afternoon?
Yeah.
What time is
What time? I don't know. You decide. I'm here until 7:30.
Is it okay for you, 3 o'clock? Okay, right. Before we start, remind me to tell you something about a notes workshop I did this summer in South Korea, and what my teacher told me about things that he said related to, well, a couple of things you need to hear. Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, guys.